Hey, friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to Ask WrestleJuice. You guys left a bunch of great questions. We'll go ahead and dive into it. We'll kick off with this one because it's coming up next week. Huon says, do you think Survivor Series will be overtaken by CM Punk chants? I think there will be CM Punk chants. I don't think it's going to be overtaken by CM Punk chants. I think Triple H is probably savvy enough to understand that one thing he doesn't want to have happen at this show is going to be the crowd, sort of like he's overtaking the show with CM Punk chants. And so he'll probably pace the show out. He'll probably book the show in a certain way to prevent that from happening. But the bottom line is you haven't seen a lot of this lately. I understand they're in Chicago, but you haven't seen a lot of this lately. I think that the crowd will be so happy to see Randy Orton because they'll probably... Shit, that's sort of a spoiler. It's supposed to be Randy Orton. It's supposed to be at Survivor Series. Maybe that'll change. Maybe that won't happen. I don't know. But I get the feeling that they're going to do a bunch of things at Survivor Series to sort of distract the crowd away from the CM Punk stuff. It's not like CM Punk's stock is what it was before his big return to AEW the first time around. And on top of that, it's not like the WWE's creative situation is in the dumpster the way it was during a lot of the times when you'd hear those CM Punk chants. Generally speaking, whenever WWE is doing something interesting, if the crowd is invested in it, if people are going to the shows to see WWE's product, it's because they're doing something good. And the crowd, generally speaking, doesn't do the CM Punk stuff. I know they're in Chicago. I understand he's a free agent. He's been trolling a lot of people with his social media. That being said, I get the feeling that this crowd is going to be a bit more savvy and understand he's not going to be there, and there's no reason to chant that. From what I understand, there have been CM Punk chants at AEW crowds or at AEW shows that have been quickly booed down by other members in the audience. So I kind of feel like there isn't going to be some big groundswell of support for CM Punk. I don't think that the chants are going to overtake the show. It's not like they're going to be in the middle of War Games and you're going to hear massive CM Punk chants. Will they break out? Probably. Will they be sporadic throughout the show? Probably. Will they overrun the show? Will they overtake the show? Will they dominate the show? I don't believe that is going to be the case. But something to look out for, and who knows, if it does overtake the show, no saying WWE is not going to bring him back, because if there is a groundswell of support for CM Punk, I can see them maybe giving it a shot, seeing what happens. Next up, Chow Wheezy says, most wrestling fans have taken a break from watching for a period of time, but would get back after something catches their attention. What was the moment that made you stop watching wrestling for a bit? What made you come back? What storyline that you missed that you wished you'd watch live? So if I recall correctly, I pretty much was watching uninterrupted, not like every SmackDown, but like most of the Raws up from I'd say from 98 is when I started until around 2007 or so. And between 2007 and around 2010, 2011, whenever the pipe bomb was, I started watching a little bit prior to the pipe bomb, probably around the new Nexus stuff, because CM Punk had sort of taken over the new Nexus. He was on commentary, and then he found his way back to do the pipe bomb stuff. So probably late 2010, early 2011 is when I started watching again. What drove me away? I don't even know if the timeline lines up here, but I remember watching certain characters that there are two that stand out to me that were characters that I was like, is this the direction they're going in? Let's see here. I'm going to double check and see if this adds up. No, this does not add up. I was going to say Mr. Kennedy was one of them, but that doesn't even line up here because he was out of there by 2009. I stopped watching around 2007. So yeah, I had enough of Mr. Anderson. On top of that, or Mr. Kennedy, on top of that, he was a SmackDown guy. And maybe that was one thing that I wasn't watching a lot of around the mid-aughts, like after 2005. Maybe I wasn't watching a whole lot of SmackDown. So yeah, I was not a fan of his just because I was like, he's just a guy with a microphone. Like, what's the big deal about him? He wasn't like a particularly good wrestler. There was nothing about him that really stood out. So him and like, I like him now. I think he's good now. But MVP, I thought his like presentation was weird. I'm like, is he supposed to be a football player or what? He's got like a long sleeve singlet with like shorts. It was just very confusing to me. I didn't really think he was much of anything interesting. Another thing that really drove me away. This is what I remember. This is what drove me away was when WWE got ECW. I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. They could do something neat with this. And then we got WWE ECW, and that was garbage. And so I was like, this is bad. Like, they're not really doing this the right way. And I think at that point I was like, yeah, I'm going to check out. And I think I would sort of keep tabs here and there a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, like, I've gone back and watched some of the stuff from then. I don't really think I missed out on a whole lot between 2007 and 2009 or 2010 or so. Like, I missed a lot of the guest host era in 2010. I don't think I watched a lot of those Raws. I saw some of them, and they were just not interesting to me at all. I was like, I don't need all these other people in my shows. So, yeah, let's see here. Stone 8935 says, do you think LA Knight has the in-ring ability to become the next big thing? We all know he has charisma and mic ability, but I think it's possible why he hasn't won a title already is because of in-ring ability. I don't think his in-ring ability kind of matters one way or the other. I think WWE is trying to figure out if he's simply a catchphrase. If the yeah thing is the thing that is getting him over, is it the charisma? Is it the mic work? I kind of feel like it's that. I think they've got something good with him when he emphasizes how he's been on the grind for 20 years. I think that's a smart move. But I think the crowd just likes somebody that connects with them that seemingly WWE doesn't have any interest in. And so they enjoy seeing one of their guys that they sort of glom onto rise up the ranks. Now it's a matter of, can he continue to captivate the crowd? I think if they give him, if they put him in good stories and stuff, I think he'll have a good shot. I don't know about the next big thing. I don't know that he would be a guy who could take the world title off Seth Rollins, but I could see him being the guy taking the U.S. title off of Logan Paul. I think that's a possibility. If you do that, then the crowd, I think they'll be satiated by that. I think they'll be like, okay, cool. You gave him the U.S. title. He's on a good run with the U.S. title. Give him that for a little while, and I think crowd will be happy. Let's see here. Donnie Bravo says, how much damage would MJF going to WWE cause? I think it would dent the perception of AEW and tank ratings in the short term. That's a good question. I think for me, the biggest question is how much creatively would it take away from AEW? If you think about it right now, the A story in AEW is MJF. He is the central focus of like multiple stories. You got the Bullet Club Gold, you got Samoa Joe, you got the Devil stuff, you got Adam Cole, you got Roderick Strong. There's a lot of stuff that's sort of rotating around MJF. And I get the feeling that a lot of that is due to MJF. I get the feeling, I mean, look, I don't think it's coincidence that pretty much every time MJF is featured in something, it's a big deal. I think MJF probably has a lot of say in his own creative there at AEW. I think he's a really smart guy. And so removing a creative mind away from AEW, a place where they really need wrestlers who are creative to thrive, if you remove a major part of that, I don't know that they're going to be able to find somebody who has got that crowd connection like MJF. That's going to be hard boots to fill. So I think the bigger question is, creatively speaking, is AEW going to be in a worse off spot with MJF missing? I think that answer might be yes. I get the feeling he's going to stay with AEW though. I really do. Let's see here. Luis Areza. This is a tough one. He says, he says, you ask us all the time. Now roles reversed. What are some of your steaming hot takes? All right, here's one. The rest of wrestling media is behind the curve. When we were saying over at Going in Raw that AEW was lacking creatively, not a lot of other people were saying it. Now we're saying that AEW is actually on the come up in terms of a lot of their stories, and a lot of people are just now saying that AEW is struggling. So I kind of feel like AEW, they've actually got a couple of stories that are pretty interesting, and I hope that they're able to execute the finishes and see them through and then follow through. I think, for example, Swerve Strickland, I think he's been on the come up, and I don't think they've really dropped the ball much with him. I think him and Hangman are both coming out of this feud looking pretty good. I think that MJF has really MJF is a good guy who's really injected something special with AEW. It's just the perception of AEW over the past year or so is that creatively they're not doing great. And I wonder if that perception is clouding a lot of people's views as to what's actually going on the TV. So yeah, there you go. They still need to focus on their women's division. They need to give them more time. It's weird that each episode of AEW programming has one single women's wrestling match. Jaden Fox says, I love that wrestling is seemingly more popular now than it has been for a long time. In contrast, I might just be personally burnt out or something, but I don't feel like anything is really must watch these days. Have you ever felt that with wrestling or with any other media that you were super into at one point but kind of dropped off during a surge of popularity? So I've already talked about when I dropped out of wrestling from 2007 to 2010. I started to feel that way with like in wrestling, especially since 2019 when AEW showed up, there's always been something that's piqued my interest. I will tell you this though. It's been a while since I've bought a comic book. I used to be super into comic books. I have like a bunch of long boxes out there of comic books, and something about the way they're produced now, most comic books, they're just not meant to be comic books. They're meant to be like movie properties, at least in the independent, like Image Comics. A lot of those comics just feel like they're pitches for movies. They're not really doing a lot with the comic book medium. And so I don't buy a lot of comic books. It's either the stories aren't very good or the artwork just isn't all that great. Or in the case of Marvel and DC, they're way too expensive. The universes are so convoluted. The artwork just looks too Photoshop. It looks too like rendered. Maybe it's just a product of me being older. I like the way that the comic books looked, 20 years ago. So yeah, there's not like a lot of even, back in the day, like Vertigo had a bunch of cool comic books, and it's just, I don't see that anymore. I don't. Maybe you guys give me some recommendations, but I've heard a lot of them and I don't like a lot of them. Darius the Great says, if you're able to book a new version of the Nexus with today's NXT stars, who would be in the group? So an influx of talent comes up from NXT and they completely wreck everybody. And you get like 6 dudes. Or I guess, because their women's division is so stacked, maybe you do it in the women's division. You got Tiffany Stratton, Roxanne Perez, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane, and I don't know who else. Maybe Jade Gargill can lead that. I don't know. Who's their champion right now? I don't even know who's over. It's been a while since I've watched it. I've named 4 of them. I know I'm missing some people. Lyra Valkyria, right? So like those 5 coming up and like wrecking, because right now there are some really awesome legacy pieces in WWE. You got the Horsewoman there minus Mercedes Moné. You got Asuka over there. So you got like some people who have been there who came up to WWE in like 2015 or so, early 2016. And yeah, I think that if you get like a new Nexus version for the women, I think that could be really, really cool. That could be really, really interesting. As opposed to the men, I think it'd work a lot better for the women these days, to be honest with you. Braden Loader says, how do you see AEW reintroducing Jack Perry to TV? He's probably going to be one of the guys attacking with the devil. That's probably how they're going to reintroduce him. Regardless, he's going to have a lot of heat. I know there's some people out there who legitimately don't like him, but you got to use that somehow. You really got to use that. Let's see here. Have him come out. Yeah, you do. You start blasting Cult of Personality and have him come out to that. Daniel Craig says, with Ric Flair now in AEW and Sting near retirement, what's your favorite cheese? Shit, you know what? I meant to check. I got a cheese tray that my kid brought home from her the place where she works, and they've got this. Oh man, I even forget what it is. sort of like a whiter cheese that's got like a real sort of, I don't know, rubbery texture when it's cold, but then when you melt it, it's like perfect. I forget what it's called though, but it's really good. Maybe I'll go look at it. I'll put it right here. Heel Heat says, how important do you think the devil reveal is? It's very important. It is incredibly important. If done right, the devil reveal can be like a huge deal. It could be a huge buzzworthy moment. Get everybody talking about how cool AEW is. If they get it wrong, they're going to be talking about how crappy AEW is. Let's see here. Metalcore Kid says, do you think WWE will acknowledge that the next Intercontinental Championship win for Miz will be tied with Jericho? Will WWE acknowledge Chris Jericho despite him working in AEW? And lastly, does Miz eventually get that coveted 10th IC title win? No, he doesn't get the title win, but I wouldn't be shocked. I think WWE's fine mentioning Chris Jericho. He's a big part of their history. I think that they should mention him. And I don't think they'd have a problem necessarily doing that. Jason, the PPW sound guy, says, if you could either be the man to dethrone Roman Reigns or get free original chicken sandwiches for a year, which would you choose? I'd be the guy to dethrone Roman. That would probably tank WWE's business, but I would get burnt out on free original chicken sandwiches from Burger King every year. Jaden Fox says, if you didn't cover wrestling for a living, would you still pay for individual AEW pay-per-views if they do move to once a month, 12 a year, without lowering the price? I find it hard to justify AEW pay-per-view costs as is without them essentially doubling their output. It exclusively would depend on what I'm doing that particular weekend. If I had something going on that weekend, then no, I wouldn't bother to. I would just watch social media afterwards. If I'm like sitting around, I'm like, man, I got nothing to do. I'm a very like mood-based person. If I'm in the mood, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'll check this out. I don't know that I would be like a diehard, I'm going to watch everything guy. I don't know that I'd be that. So I don't know. It all depends on my mood. It is a lot though. Richard Ives says, what did you think of Paul White and his appearance when wrestling on AEW the other day? He doesn't look great. That spot with the car looked rough, but God bless him. You know, he gave his body to pro wrestling. And he did that for Hobbs. I thought that was awesome of him. You know, I hope his hip is okay. But he's put in a hell of a career on that big body of his, and it shows. It shows. You can't say that it doesn't. But that's good on him. I'm sure he was happy to do the honors for Will Hobbs out there. Brendan Monroe says, as an Australian, I don't know American fast food. Can you please power rank the best fast food restaurants in America? So for my personal taste, it's Del Taco, Burger King, Carl's Jr., McDonald's, and then I guess Popeyes would probably. Popeyes is a chicken, so I'd probably put Popeyes actually at the top. So yeah, there you go, and then Taco Bell at the bottom. Dan the Man says, do you think Miz could have had one of the greatest WWE Championship title runs ever when he won the title the second time if he was given a fair shot? No, I don't. I don't think he's got main event championship charisma. I just don't. Will the Undead S'more says, in its current state, what would AEW's title picture look like if MJF was injured and unable to defend the belt? Moxley. It would probably look like John Moxley. Santiago says, how do you think WWE will handle Orton's back injury when it comes to the RKO? Will he transition to the punt with the occasional RKO, or will he continue using the RKO as it'll be expected from the crowd wherever he goes? It's going to be expected. You got to think that this guy has probably thought and considered and consulted his doctors about the RKO because that is where his money is. It's not like he's a Bryan Danielson who can just, I'll just bust out a new submission move. The RKO is synonymous with Randy Orton. If you see Randy Orton, if you pay money because you want to go see a ticket, I buy a ticket, go see Randy Orton. You're basically saying I'm buying a ticket to go see an RKO. I'm sure he's taking that into consideration, and we're going to get an RKO from him whenever he has a match. Mr. Sammy Sandman says, who has done more for wrestling, Jim Cornette or Vince Russo? Both have very different booking philosophies and have their fans and critics, but overall, who has helped wrestling as a whole? My gut says Jim Cornette. I'm not super schooled on both dudes' careers. Obviously, I know the basics. Jim Cornette was in a lot of different territories, doing a lot of different things from the top of, management all the way down to just managing as a manager. I mean, he managed a lot of the greats and he was always involved in storylines, and the guy knows wrestling inside and out. Very controversial figure for many reasons. Obviously, these days, I don't agree with a lot of what he said. That being said, he has been a fixture of the pro wrestling industry for a very, very long time, and he's been in a lot of places. So I got to probably give it to Jim Cornette. Like from what I understand, Vince Russo, was in WWF, was one of Vince's main writers during the Attitude Era, during a very important part of WWE or WWF. And that's good on him. I don't know how much he really contributed. Like, there's so much of this stuff that comes out of his mouth. Like, I have a hard time believing based off of other things. When you hear him say something and then you juxtapose that with other stuff that comes out that just makes more sense. I don't know that I personally believe a lot of what he says. So I don't know like what he's contributed beyond being one of the top guys in the writer's room during the Attitude Era, during like the biggest moment there for WWF. And that's not nothing. That's something. But then, when he gets to WCW, I stopped watching when he got to WCW. I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, this will be interesting. Vince Russo, the guy behind the Attitude Era. This will be good. And then I started watching. I was like, this is trash. Like, this is what this guy brings to the table. This is crap. And so I stopped watching, and, he made himself champion. It was so embarrassing. It was absolutely embarrassing to make himself champion. And so for all the good that Vince Russo might have done in the Attitude Era, I kind of feel like you got to balance that out with the bad he did in WCW. So I would say probably Jim Cornette. And I kind of feel like it's probably not even close, to be honest with you. We're going to end on this one here. It's about the OG chicken sandwich now that it's apparently the official sandwich here of WrestleJuice. Jabari says, respect for acknowledging the original chicken sandwich. Although Burger King has declined in quality rapidly over the years, the original chicken sandwich still slaps. That's not a question. It's just acknowledgement for the original chicken sandwich. It still slaps. See you guys around.